You might say your business is customer focused, but is it really true? What if your sales are lagging, but not because of your offer, but it's because you're building everything backwards? On today's episode of Profit with a Plan, I sit down with Andy Halko, creator of the world's first AI customer clone platform, to expose why companies are failing their buyers without even realizing it. We'll discover the sneaky signs that you're not as buyer centric as you think, and why you're knowing your customers better than your competition is the ultimate advantage, and how to use AI, yes, really, to replicate your ideal buyer and drive more aligned growth. So, if you're ready to stop guessing and start selling to what your buyers actually want, this episode's a game changer. So, join me on Profit with a Plan. Hey, entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for too little profit? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help you scale smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you keep it or sell it. I'm Marcia Riner, business growth strategist and profit booster behind the Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs to turn their businesses into highly profitable and sale ready assets so they enjoy more income now and a bigger payday later on. So, join me for practical strategies, expert insights, and proven steps to make your business more profitable, more valuable, and built to last. Today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. But before we dive in, I've got something special for you. If you're a business owner who's tired of overcomplicated, overpriced marketing strategies that just don't deliver, listen up. What if there was a simple, affordable way to market your business that actually works? The Profit Booster Marketing Hub is your all in one marketing system built specifically for busy entrepreneurs who want real results without hiring a full team or wrestling with the tech. It's automated, it's intuitive, and it comes loaded with pre designed templates, a full functioning CRM, social media tools, email, text automation, and much more. Everything you need to capture, nurture, and close leads. So if you're ready for a low cost, easy to use marketing system that gets the job done, visit profitbooster.biz and let's make your marketing way more profitable. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Today's guest is Andy Halko, founder of Insivia, a growth consultancy he launched over 20 years ago to help B2B and SaaS companies scale smarter with strategy at the core. Andy believes that real growth happens when you build around your buyer, not your product. And that belief led him to his new book, The Buyer-Centric Operating System, and the launch of the BuyerTwin, the world's first AI-powered customer clone platform that simulates your ideal buyer to drive better strategy, marketing, and sales. He's helped hundreds of companies install systems for sustainable buyer-led growth, and today he's here to show you how to do the same. Welcome, Andy, to Profit with Plan podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to chat and talk about, how you make an organization buyer centric.
Ah, I love it. It is so important. Um, Even if you started your company years ago and you thought you knew your ideal client and you created this product, I can assure you that buyer has changed. So if you're not changing, you're no longer buyer centric. And I think people forget about that and just keep, chugging along at status quo. It is really crazy. So I'm really excited to talk about this with you. But before we get started, how did you get into this kind of focus of the buyer-centric space?
Yeah, so I started an agency 23 years ago, and we're back before the days of YouTube and all of these different things, right? And one of the biggest challenges that I faced when I would go in and talk to owners and we would come up with marketing plans or we would talk about their product was that, we would get into, okay, who are you selling to? And then ask questions like, what are their pains? What are their challenges? Because we needed to know that. And the number of folks that didn't have that clarity, or they would pull out some slide from 10 years ago, was just unbelievable. And it drove me crazy. And so, I just kept spinning in this mindset of this is the thing that every business needs to understand the most. They
Mm,
have to understand, what are the buyer's pains, or they can't create a product that's actually sticky. They have to understand what motivates a buyer, or they're not going to create ads that are going to actually get clicks. They have to understand what are the decision factors and the influencing factors when a buyer makes a decision, or you can't have a sales team that's actually going to convince people to close. And so for me, it just all came back to if we get that one thing right, everything that comes after it really starts being so much more effective,
mm.
efficient, and impactful.
Isn't that the truth? And I know that, we're both consultants on this manner, so we talk to clients all the time about this. And even today, I get those same kind of answers or somebody else's answers, right? Um, but it's like they really truly try to wrap the buyer around their product and not the product or offering to make the buyer be able to go, Gosh, I really need that. I want that."
Have to have it. Yeah,
It's
I totally agree. It's interesting. I've seen two different types of founders as I've talked to people. The ones that have this idea and this passion, and I almost call it ego, that they want to create a product and force people into it, like you're saying. And, they create their product based off of here's this cool innovation. I think this would be really neat. Their marketing based off of the new feature that they have. And then you've got the other founders that I've seen where before they even build the product, they're going and they're putting something in front of a potential buyer and saying, would you give me money for this?
mm,
Then they come back and they build an MVP, something simple, and they put it back in front of the buyer and say, okay, what if this actually solves your problem? And again, would you give me money for it?
yeah.
And so they're, I've seen these two different mindsets, and the ones that scale are the folks that keep going back to the buyer and asking those questions.
Ah, I love that. I wanna ask you, is there a third version, which I hear often, which is, "Oh, well, I'm the founder and I had this problem, and therefore now I've created a solution that I have, and I'm still gonna kinda shove it down someone else's throat."
Yeah, I see that one all the time. It's somewhere in the middle, right? But I think that people like that don't always realize that not everybody's like them.
Ah, thank you.
So yeah, and so you can't just solve your own problem and think that it is going to be universal.
Mhm.
And I also think I see those folks that as their business evolves 5 years later, they're still in the mindset that they're that customer and that
Mm.
they get it. But things have changed. You're no longer that person anymore. And you really need to like step back and say, guess what? I'm no longer my ideal customer. And now I've got to like start to familiarize myself with who that is.
And I think that's really important is business requires constant innovation, right? And it's not innovation in the technology necessarily or innovation in the product necessarily. It's innovation and understanding where your buyer is because your buyer is innovating through life, right? Just as a clear example, I was listening to an expert on TV this morning, and he was talking about how customers are no longer going into the bank. They're using online banking. So now they're having to downsize their footprint, their neighborhood footprint because buyers, I mean, why spend all that money if your clients aren't going in? That's a typical understanding of what your customers want.
My wife and I comment always about like, why is there another bank being built? Like we just don't get it. And so you're exactly right. And I think, I say in my book that buyers change constantly and you really need to be agile and always evolve because I mean, look at the world we're in now with AI and our buyers are really literally shifting and changing every single day. And so
Okay.
if you've got that persona slide that your marketing team put together 5 years ago and has a really cool stock photo and says Jim Smith, you
I
are
remember doing
solid.
those.
And every marketing company has done that, and you see it and they
Yep.
put it in a slide deck, they barely open it up. But for me, that's always been like the worst presentation of what customer centricity should be. If you can slim your target audience to a 10 bullet points and you think you're going to build a great company and a great product and great marketing off of that, it's just insane to me.
So then tell me, where do you think the buyer-centric persona should be? Or should we even not be looking at a persona, but maybe I don't know, maybe a freeway or a funnel that goes back and forth constantly?
Yeah, well, that's kind of my whole thing is that the twin. I've created the twin, and I believe that we need to evolve from personas to twins.
Okay.
And AI allows us to do that. Personas are flat, they're static,
Mm.
they're limited. To me, the evolution of a twin is that we can use AI to create something that is in depth, that is sophisticated and agile, and that we can actually interact with. We can ask it questions. We can give it things and say, give me feedback on this. We are now in a time where we can create a clone of our customer,
Literally, voice and
literally,
all.
and be able to constantly be testing our ideas and getting feedback. And so now, for companies that want to be customer centric, which I believe you need to be, you are in a time where you have the greatest capability in the world to make it easy to do this.
Wow. Okay. First of all, I'm all in. I love it. I tell people all the time that I'm dating Chad GPT
Mhm.
and that, we're going to get married soon because if he only had arms, I mean, he'd make the perfect partner, right?
Don't worry,
But
it's coming.
I know, right? It might be a little metally and cold, but yeah, it's like this creation of having um the opportunity to communicate, right? And get that feedback and test ideas. I think it's really shortened the curve that we used to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in time, you know, trying to gather this data that, about our ideal clients when there's so much data available. Now you have to check it and review it and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it gives you kind of the direction and the feedback. And so when you talk about a twin, fill me in a little bit more on what you mean a twin.
Yeah, I actually created a platform called BuyerTwin. And what you do is you go up and you determine a segment, a size, a location, job title, and then you use AI to actually enrich that. And you could do this in ChatGPT or whatever it might be as well, but obviously we make it a little bit easier, but it's creating this hyper accurate version. And so you can pull in data from customer systems, you can use AI, and we use a lot of APIs to pull in data, and it's about trying to create a really accurate version of who you want to influence. And
Mm.
then being able to now make that actionable, where in our platform, you can actually put in a URL for a landing page. Let's say you're creating a campaign and say, give me feedback on this. And that target buyer will tell you, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. Here's what I
Wow.
would change on the page. Here's whether I would actually convert if I landed there. And so now, before you actually send something out to the real people you want to influence, you can at least have a clone tell you this is where you potentially are off and what I would add or remove to get me to take action. And so it's that
I
type of
love it.
capability that I think evolves us from the persona to the twin, which is something interactive.
Wow. And I think that's important. It sounds like, it's not just a prompt of like, "Oh, give me the top, blah blah blah," or "Write me an ad for this." You're actually through your product, you've trained the agent to be able to know exactly what you're looking for and what we call seasoning, and you're putting in your information and your best clients' information, and you're really building that, like you said, the twin that will actually be able to process data and give you the feedback before you go spending money. Because if anybody's spent money with ads before, they know you spend a lot of money up front to get data and test the system, and
Right.
and 6 months later you still don't have a client out of it. It's crazy, but this way you can shorten the curve. It sounds like in in
And it's
in
all
in no
about like,
time.
yeah, and I mean, it's all about turning them into a role-playing scenario, right? Like we
Mm.
really spent a lot of time thinking of ours of make sure that it is really seeing from its point of view. It's using that data that we've collected and prioritized to understand like how they view the world. And then we give them some context of the company that you are, and it is very much like you have a customer sitting next to you that has an idea what your business is, and you just showed them an ad and you said, "Hey, do you
What do you
like
think?
this?" And you're getting that feedback right there. And so
Wow.
I really do think for anybody that is trying to um, get over a plateau or improve what they're doing in product marketing or sales, this concept of a twin, however you do it, is a game changer.
Are your podcast guest appearances leading to real business, or are you just hoping that listeners will take action? With the Profit Booster Podcast Monetization Hub, we turn your interviews into lead generating machines so that you capture, nurture, and convert listeners into paying clients. So stop leaving money on the table and get started today at profitboosterpod.com. It sounds like it. So when we're sitting in front of our quote twin, right, and we're giving them our data, does it help to give them maybe our competitors' data as well?
Yeah, I think pulling in your competitors, it's interesting. Our twins too, you can, it will actually suggest competitors, and then you can have it evaluate them and say, this is what I really like about this competitor. And that's something to say, oh, wow, they said that they really love that there's testimonials on the homepage. We don't have any. So we've got to do that. And so I think, really giving them that ability to give you insight into what they're seeing about your market is a key point as well, for sure.
Ugh, this is so good. But if we circle back here, because we got into the details of understanding the twin, right? And how to gather information and help you be better marketer with that. The ultimate idea is still going back to asking, well, what does the customer really want?
Yeah.
Right? And how you can then with this data come back and go, well, it sounds like customer, you're looking for this and this and that. And then you're a lot closer to that testing mark. So then those people start raising their hands more often and your marketing dollar goes farther, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because I think some people can be skeptical of what AI produces. But I found a really unique benefit to it is that I don't know about you if you've ever done customer surveys or spoken to them, but they tend to hold back or they over positive, have little rose colored glasses on, because if you say like what could I do better, they're going to be like, oh, you were great, but maybe you could have gotten me coffee faster, right?
So
It's
then you spend thousands on coffee and that's
yeah,
not what they
right.
wanted.
And the interesting thing that I see with AI is if you train it right and you ask the right questions and it's using so much information, it can actually provide you these really great insights that you might not get from asking someone directly. And one of the reasons I think that too is there was a book years ago from someone at Google where it talked about, no one is honest in surveys, even if they're anonymous.
Exactly.
But where they are honest is in Google searches. And if you would look at someone's Google search, it would tell you everything because they don't lie in a Google search. If
How
you're
funny.
looking to figure out your health, you are writing in your exact symptoms. But if you go talk to the doctor, you might be a little embarrassed.
Wow. What an insight. I've never heard that one before. That's powerful. But, to kind of circle back to your testimonial and surveys things, it's like every one of my testimonials, like they didn't give me the answer I was looking for, right? So I'm like, do I coach them? Do you mind if I zhuzh this up for you? Can I fix this because you rattled on about something else and I really wanted to point out this part of it? I mean, they're never, that's why it's like, I don't put a lot
Human
of weight in
nature.
testimonials, right? Or even the Yelp reviews, because, if your pizza was delivered cold, they gave you a 1 when the pizza 99.999% of the time and you replaced the pizza and they still gave you a 1, right?
Yep.
So, eh, but I think that having that twin to really drive that information, not to go back into your AI, but to go back into your AI, right? It just wow, that really gives you the stuff that you really want to make that decision because they're not going to tell you the truth anyways.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, and I always tell people I like the balance, right? Like we have the ability that you can send a survey out and grab some information. I think it's good to gain real feedback, take transcripts of calls and summarize them. And so real information is good. But I also think letting AI do some of the things that it can be really good at, which is, be unbiased, really look outside the box and say, you can prompt it correctly to really have it think like that person, but give you the answers that you might not typically get from them.
Mm.
And so I think like that balance is so powerful that for people that say like I only want to hear directly from a customer and I don't trust AI, that's the wrong answer. And I also think for people that say like I'm only going to use AI and I'll ignore my customers, that's the wrong answer too.
I love the balance line because we both know that there are many customers or real many listeners that do believe that, right? And I think having that balance gives you that blend of both, right? As you said. So okay, so when we're talking about buyer centric, right, and we find out that our widget or service is not exactly what the buyer is looking for at this time, what do you recommend when you find that? Do you know, total retrofit or like you're
Well,
done, close the business, it's
yeah.
over. Go cry someplace in the corner.
Well, I think that validation is a journey, right? You learn and you adapt. I don't think any business that, you find out that something's not liked and you adapt what you're doing. I think evolution is better than putting your head in the sand and doing nothing.
Mm,
And so getting that feedback and I think that's what stops a lot of people is they're afraid to hear that. The
yeah.
amount of like startup founders that I've had conversations with that I can just sense the fact that they didn't do enough research and they didn't talk to enough people is that they didn't want their idea to get destroyed.
Their baby, right?
Their baby. And
Oh my
so,
goodness.
but that is just ruinous. And I
I have to agree.
yeah,
I've got a client that, or past client, we have recently parted, thank goodness, that was so living in yesterday because yesterday he had fantastic SEO and ranked really high for his service and did really well. And things flatlined and now they're negative lining. And he's spending so much time, energy, and effort chasing something that in my recommendation was kind of dying in the
mm,
current form and he had to evolve and innovate in his marketing as well as his product offering.
yeah.
And I kept getting this the entire time because he's like, no, it's that problem. I'm not the problem. I'm the greatest, latest. I'm fantastic. And people will spend lots of money with me. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's one of those I think the same thing that gives you that ability to start a business and to run a business, that confidence, a little bit of ego. Obviously, you go through bad times as a business owner. I have, and you have
We
to have
all have.
lens of like, I've got to keep going, but that can hold you back. And I really
Mm,
believe that, business owners especially need to be open-minded. They have to leverage that confidence to keep them moving forward and achieve great things, but they also have to open their ears and really listen to what the market is saying and what other people are saying. And it's okay to parse that and say, I agree with this, or I, don't agree with this, and I'm going to make my decision. But it's the folks that don't even listen that are
for sure.
just, set for failure.
For sure. And I think that goes back to, the original part of our conversation, or opening line of our conversation that you've got to innovate to match where your customers are, not where you want them to be.
Mm,
But that famous, I'm a hockey fan, so that famous Gretzky move is you got to go, where the puck you think the puck's going to be, not where the guy's letting it go off his stick, and it's like we have to think that way with our business and innovate our business model, offering, delivery. Maybe it's the way we talk to our customers.
I'm a hockey
Maybe it's
player,
the
so I love the
yeah,
quote.
yay.
I'm a
Maybe
hockey-
it's the payment methods that they're paying. They
Right.
want to pay it early rather than late, or they want to pay it online. I have a gym that will not let you change your payment card
Mm,
online. You have to physically call them. And I'm like, are you guys stuck in the 90s?
right.
It's
And I find it interesting. I was just telling this story about innovation, and they talk about Apple and the iPhone, or you say Ford, and he said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses.
right.
And some people use that as a way against this customer mindset, but I
Mm,
actually think that's not true. If you would have asked people what they wanted, it was to have a way to get to their family quicker. It was a way that they wouldn't have to stop to rest the horses because it made the trip longer. It was something, it's all these things that are emotional motivators to the customer, and then what you build to solve it might be something they've never seen before, but it's still rooted in pains and challenges and motivations of a human being. And so
mm.
I always say to people that say, like, well, if Ford or Steve Jobs would have, listened to the customer, we would have never had these things. Well, no, they listened to the customer, and then they created the thing the customer had never seen before to solve the problem that the customer had.
Or didn't know they had at the time and now they want, right?
Exactly. So I think that idea of innovation is great, and we're all smart, but if it doesn't root in what
Mm.
humans want, it doesn't matter how innovative you are.
That's the dots connecting that so many people miss. Is
Yeah,
that
please.
I was just gonna say it's that thing that they want and need, whether they realize it or not. If you could be a visionary and create something they don't want yet, but they're gonna really like, that's on the outer edge. But at the same point, you're delivering you're delivering a product that your customer wants to buy, or you're not really in business.
Yeah, I think innovation for this is really cool, but it doesn't actually solve a problem or create an emotion,
Mm,
then you haven't done anything. And so I really think it has to be back to it's about humans. And to your point of that business owner that, is facing struggles, I would definitely advise like go back to those customers and find out what they want, how they want it. And that's where you can shape your business and see that trajectory change.
mm, mm. Exactly. But some people are just too blinded to see they can't see the forest through the trees, right?
Yeah, I see it all the time. It's been
I know. That's definitely for sure. We both see it pretty frequently, and it's such an interesting space to be in. I love it though. Andy, this was really, really, really good. And the insights and the evolution that in today's time and space, we absolutely have to be buyer centric. We have to use creative ideas to shorten the speed because the speed to delivery, if you're not doing it, your competition truly is, right? And so it's like it's so great that you've merged the two ideas together to help people really market well and bring in the clients and customers that you're able to help.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think that for me, I've always been a very strategic and also technology minded person. And I've kind of found my ikigai. You can look that up if you want, but ikigai, where it really bridges all the things that I'm good at, which is taking the idea of this customer centric, which I really believe at my core philosophy, and now the technology that we have,
Mm.
being able to merge those two to create a powerful way for companies to really improve pretty much every aspect of their business.
I love it. I love it. It's so exciting. We're in an exciting time for sure in business if
Very
you
much.
embrace rather than reject. So, Andy, where can listeners find out more about you, your company, and your buyer twin?
Yeah, if they want to go to andyhalko.com, I've got, my books and product and all of that stuff there. I would also encourage people to look. I have a book coming out called The Omniscient Buyer, which I think is so powerful in the fact that we are about to face the biggest change in buying habits that we've ever seen in the world. Our buyers will be coming to us with all of the knowledge. They will do their discovery in AI. They will ask for comparisons. They'll ask AI to give them a summary of the reviews. And so by the time they reach you to buy something, they will know everything about you.
Wow.
So my book is all about how do we need to evolve to deal with this whole new animal that is
Wow.
our buyer.
Wow. That's exciting and scary all at once,
Very
right?
much. So yeah, check out The
Yeah.
Omniscient Buyer. It should be a good one.
I love it. Well done. And I love the forward thinking on this because we have to prepare.
Yeah,
It,
we're in the greatest period of change in a long, long time, and um, we are definitely in the either adapt or die for business.
oh, isn't that the truth? Wow. Okay, listeners, adapt or die. That's the focus for sure on this. Thanks so much for listening and tuning in today. I hope you got some valuable insights and actionable ideas that will help you make your business more profitable. And I know looking at Andy's thought process and the way that he's able to connect the dots, if you can incorporate that buyer centric mindset and use some of the technologies that are out there, including his buyer twin and his really cool book coming out, to shape your business, you're going to be ahead of the curve. And if you wait until next year to implement this, you're gone, you're lost, right? It's got to be at speed, right? And not FOMO speed, but educated knowledge speed. So I would encourage you to open your mind, think about your buyer and how you're delivering your offerings. I myself have evolved over the years from one way, shape, or form to where my clients are telling me that that's what they need and want, right? And I would encourage you to do the same. All right. Well, whew, if you're let's kind of wrap this thing up and keep going and if you're
Yeah, thank
tired of
you for
that
having me
marketing,
on it.
right? That's complicated and time consuming, go check out the Profit Booster Marketing Hub. You can find that at profitbooster.biz and don't forget to subscribe to future shows. You can always find Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast platforms. We're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks so much, Andy. This was really good.
Thank you.